afternoon, everyone.
It's gonna be coming more.
Not quite have a quorum yet. We are expecting people. There's someone stuck in a subway. But we're expecting a couple of other members. I've asked Connie Fishman of Friends to give the Friends report.
Thank you. It may not be long enough for the subway wait though. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. For the new member, my name is Connie Fishman. I'm head of Hudson River Park Friends. And the things that I wanted to talk about today are first our gala. Fundraising is going on. We now have a corporate honoree, finally. The terminal warehouse team, which is redeveloping the building, which is 28th Street and West Street. The team consists of L&L Holding Company, Columbia Property Trust, and Cook Architects. The warehouse, if you don't know it, is the site of an old nightclub called The Tunnel. And it's been undergoing a transformation for the past few years, modernizing the interior, adding floors to the west side facing the park part of the building. It's a huge building blocked through from 27th to 28th and 11th Avenue to West Street. They've been involved with Friends for many years, starting with the past owners going way back to 2005, who donated the water wheel sculpture at Pier 66 that's there, and hosting the gala in 2011 in the old tunnel space. This is the third iteration of owners after that, and the renovated building should finally be ready for occupancy early in 2025. Next is our playground committee. We have a summer event next week on the 1st. This is a cultivation event. We generally bring in 15 to 20 new members at this event. And the playground committee in general has been a great jumping off point for a number of neighborhood parents who have gone on to join either Friends Development Committee or the Board of Directors. We currently are vetting 3 more playground committee members for the board seats this summer that we'll hopefully bring on in our September meeting. And then I wanted to just say a little bit about our summer internships this year. We have 1 intern from Pace University working with the marketing and communications team on digital media, video assets, and assisting with a photographic archiving database that's just been purchased to help implement some organization to the 30, 40 years of photos that are in a giant archive in the trust, and started back with DOT and now include 25 years of Hudson River Park. We have another intern from Hunter College who is also working on that same project, as well as helping us out in the field with our volunteer program several days a week. And then we have 2 small teams from Northeastern University. These are MBA students working on 2 projects, one to research opportunity for park sponsorships, and the other working on the economic and other benefits derived through proximity to the park by nearby residential and business properties. And unless there are any questions, that's my report for today. So didn't kill quite enough time. I just want to thank you all for being such dedicated board members and for all your work that you do on behalf of the trust and the park, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Who's the corporate sponsor?
Sorry?
Who's the corporate sponsor together?
It's the team from the Terminal Warehouse Project, which is led by a company called L&L Holding.
Okay.
Thanks.
No, you can start from the beginning. Our plastic-free water vehicle.
Unfortunately not here.
Right now.
That's after.
No cheering.
Should I start?
Yes.
All right. I apologize for running late. Good afternoon. With a quorum present, I now call to order the July 25th, 2024 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. Please note that the meeting is being shown live via Zoom and is also being recorded, and the video will be posted on the Trust's website, and the stenographer will provide a transcript of the meeting. Directors have received the agenda materials in advance of the meeting and are free to ask questions or comment at any time on the action items submitted for approval today. Please note, however, questions or comments from the audience will not be entertained at this meeting. I note that the board memos and resolutions on today's agendas have been posted on the Trust website in the link entitled Board Meetings, Bylaws, and Other Materials under Board Agendas and Minutes are available to the public. There are 4 items on the consent agenda: approval of minutes and ratification of actions taken at the June 6, 2024 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. Number 2, ratification of community member appointees, the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, ratification of renewal of contract term with Mikella Solutions Incorporated for audio consultation services. And number 4, approval of the extension of the term of contract with Abel Bainson Butts LLP for Chelsea Water Park Phase 2 design services. Unless anyone has any comments, I will now call for a motion to approve all the 4 items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstentions? None. And with that, the motion is approved. The first corporate action before the board is authorization to contract with Hudson Meridian Construction Group LLC for construction management services for Pier 40. Ms. Doyle.
Thank you. As the board is well aware, the trust has undertaken many capital maintenance projects at Pier 40 since inheriting this enormous structure when the park was created. Aside from completing the comprehensive pile restoration effort following the successful sale of some of Pier 40's development rights, the trust has also replaced multiple sections of Pier 40's roof, replaced stairways and elevators, undertaken facade repairs, addressed various mechanical and electrical issues, replaced sections of the sprinkler system, and more. Meanwhile, the trust staff continues to identify and assess the need for additional structural improvements to ensure continued safe operations at this heavily used pier, which of course also generates substantial annual revenue, primarily from parking operations used to help support overall care of Hudson River Park. As discussed at the last board meeting and previously, staff has identified additional capital maintenance needs that must be addressed, including completing the ongoing sprinkler system work, addressing a variety of structural repairs identified in the 2023 parking inspection mandated by state and city laws, and other on-call projects. There is a great deal of complexity involved in coordinating construction while keeping the parking garage, ball fields, and the trust's own operations open and in use as much as possible while needed capital maintenance work occurs. The construction manager as builder is a contractual model that has been used extensively by the New York City Economic Development Corporation, the School Construction Authority, and other government agencies, typically in situations requiring the efficient coordination of multiple trades in complex, large-scale settings, or in situations requiring frequent field decisions. In a CMS builder contract, the selected consultant is charged not just with performing construction management services, but also with procuring and subcontracting for the required construction services. The trust entered into an arrangement akin to CMS builder with Lero after Hurricane Sandy in order to make simultaneous numerous repairs to systems and structures in a timely manner. Staff recently initiated a CMS builder procurement for the work needed at Pier 40. In the specifically proposed contract, the construction manager will be responsible for bidding and then holding the construction subcontracts for various scopes of work identified by the trust. The construction manager will be compensated based on direct staff time at an hourly rate and a multiplier on that staff time to cover profit and overhead. Should any work exceed the scheduled duration established between the construction manager and the trust related to the particular scope of work through no fault of the trust, the construction manager will lose the benefit of the profit multiplier and will only be compensated for overhead for the period of the schedule exceedance. The proposed work is expected to occur throughout Pier 40 over a 4-year period. In accordance with the trust procurement guidelines, the Pier 40 Construction Manager Services RFP was published in the New York State Contract Reporter and on the Trust website for the period of March 8th through April 18th, 2024. The Trust received 7 proposals by the submission deadline. A selection committee comprised of Trust staff from multiple departments evaluated each submission according to the identified selection criteria in the RFP, and then conducted interviews with 5 of the 7 firms. Trust staff has identified Hudson Meridian Construction Group as the highest ranked respondent. Hudson Meridian is a well-established construction management firm that has completed construction manager as builder services for complex construction projects within various New York State and New York City agencies, and is well-positioned to understand the intricacies of permitting, interagency coordination, and the unique logistical issues at Pier 40. Trust staff therefore requests authorization by the Board of Directors to contract with Hudson Meridian Construction Group LLC for Pier 40 construction management services in an amount not to exceed $25 million. Staff has established this amount based on preliminary cost assumptions and experiences, but actual costs for the specific projects that will be undertaken through the CM as builder are not yet known. Staff will provide updates to the directors as procurements are conducted for the large scope items that will be procured through the contract. The Trust currently has approximately $19 million remaining from the past sale of Pier 40 development rights, as well as $3.5 million from an agreement negotiated with Madeline Wells from a property at Leroy Street that may only be used for Pier 40 infrastructure. The remainder would come from the Trust reserves unless additional resources are identified in the future.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam President, I hate to have to vote on this today, and I'll be voting in the affirmative, but this exhausts the funds. And so after this, we'll just have a hole in our budget for Pier 40 without new specific dedicated funds to maintain that pier. After
this work is done, we will be reverting to what we had to do roughly a decade ago, which was use our reserves while holding our nose in order to effectuate certain repairs. What I will say has happened is that Robert Wynn, our VP of Property of Real Estate, VP of Real Estate, yes, has really excelled in extracting every penny possible from the parking garage. And our income is therefore up at Pier 40 as compared to the comparable period roughly a decade ago. So that while you all know that when we initiated the Pier 76 process, I told you that I thought we should be parking Pier 40 in a mid-range period. We're not giving up on a plan to have it generate more for us and be better open space also as well in the future. We did not think the time was right now, given the real estate market, but I see your point. And we nevertheless feel that this is obviously an important thing to do at this juncture.
Thank you.
Other questions?
So it's just straight out staff time and with a multiplier.
Yeah, Kevin can elaborate if necessary.
And was this lower, medium bid?
For the work, the method, since the whole concept of this in part is that, for example, the parking inspection process that we undertook in 2023 is that certain things need to be addressed. And in order to figure out how to address them, you may need to move 50 cars in a particular spot and move things around. And we're not totally in control of the circumstances of the procurement for the many bids that will be done under this. So we don't really know all of the costs and the ripple effects until someone digs deep with our team and figures out the specifics of each scenario. So from a pricing perspective, Kevin and the team developed a scenario and asked teams to give pricing on the particular scenario that they identified. And as you probably know, in our case, we are supposed to be using best value, not just lowest price. Lowest price does not always get you
No, I agree.
what you need.
I totally agree.
But from a perspective, when it came down to finalists, we were very, very close in terms of the price. This one is slightly more than the other finalists, but we felt good about the scenario. Kevin, again, Kevin Quinn, our VP, Senior VP of Design and Construction, do you want to?
Maybe important to reinforce is that it's an open book process. So the CM will bid out scope that we give them, obtain at least 3 bids or however many bids we require. And then they will offer a recommendation. So it's really up to us to choose which of those subcontractors we use. So that's why it's CM Builder and not CM Risk, because we still have a role in selecting who those are.
We'll also be requiring them to meet our MWBE requirements and other obligations that we would normally retain ourselves.
So this actually, how do I say this without the lawyers? But this kind of gets you around some of the more onerous procurement.
In theory, it could, but I think it's really more about, it's the only thing that we can think of that makes sense, given the set of conditions for Pier 40. We frankly debated it for some upcoming marine work and decided it doesn't make sense because of the specific nature of the repairs for the marine work is going to be very predictable. We
Gotcha.
know what it's going to be. It doesn't make sense to pay for the additional overhead and profit in this model for that scenario. We can do that ourselves. So this is a scenario that we think makes sense in this set of circumstances where we literally will have to move cars around. We may have to move some of our own operating equipment, like snow plows or whatever, around in various places. We're going to have to figure out what sequence of work makes sense in what order. We're going to have to keep ball fields open as much as we can, obviously, all of those things. So there's a huge amount of logistics planning that's going to be needed in order to even kind of do a procurement or the subcontracts here. And that's really the reason primarily that we are suggesting this. Yeah.
One thing to that. Another large advantage to this is that because there's so many trades involved, and it's primarily repair work, it's pretty complicated repair work. This CM as builder, since they hold all of the subcontractor contracts directly, will be much better. They'll have more teeth in enforcing schedules and making people show up on the schedule.
And beyond that, even like at Gansevoort, we ran into a situation where through no fault of either contractor, there was a kind of colliding of people that needed to be in the same site at once. And because we were holding separate contracts, they could each make a delay claim if we were holding somebody up, right? In this case, the construction manager gets to say, you wait, you go. And that again makes more sense in this case.
Gotcha. And then one last question, sorry to dominate, is what are our revenues now from the parking lot?
For the parking garage, it's about $11 million a year, net of taxes.
More than that, yeah, actually,
Yeah,
Well,
and then we have the commercial boating operation as well, and a couple of other incidental things. So Pier 40 is, it's not, given it's a 15-acre site, it could do better, but it is not, I mean, we've been managing it well.
I'll just add on, 2 things. One, the 25 million is the envelope.
The 25 million is the envelope. We could come back to you. We procured it for a 4-year period. So if, for example, we think this is going well and we want to do additional projects, we could come back to you the way this was procured, because it's not for only a couple of specific projects. And without amending the scope, we could say we recommend adding $5 million more or whatever, if it makes sense over the 4-year period.
And I'll make a plug for CM Build. I know you listed SCA and EDC, but the city did a big push in Albany this year and also got CM Build authority for libraries and culturals.
Yeah.
But the primary reason is because those renovations are complex and unexpected, and the coordination that it takes if we don't use CM Build adds a considerable amount of time and money.
Right.
So I
Good.
think it is the right move, especially with the unknowns. Okay, if not, I call for a motion to authorize the trust to contract with Hudson Meridian Construction Corp. Construction Group LLC for construction management services for Pier 40.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? None. Abstentions? None. The motion is approved. The second corporate action item before the board is authorization to amend the contract with Telco Construction Inc. for Pier 97 General Construction.
At its June 2021 meeting, the board authorized the trust to enter into a contract with Kelco Construction, Inc. for the general construction of Pier 97, which work has included installation of the distinctive new playground, multipurpose activity field, flexible gathering space, sun lawn, belvedere, overlook, sunset deck, unit paved pathways, and lush plantings. At its December 2022 meeting, the board approved an increase of $1,300,000 to add certain bikeway and esplanade work adjacent to the project area into Kelco's scope of work. The board approved another $600,000 at its October 2023 meeting for modifications needed to the wood decking portion of the pier for a total board authorization amount of up to $25,029,670. While construction of Pier 97 was mostly completed by December, with the majority of the pier open and in use by the public, additional funding is needed to pay for the removal of obstructions encountered in installing underground utilities, the addition of shade elements, and some safety features to the playground identified following field inspections, and the costs associated with logistics related to the phased opening of the pier. Trust staff therefore requests authorization to amend the contract with Kelco Construction, Inc. for Pier 97 general construction by adding $600,000 for a total board authorized amount of up to $25,629,670. Funding for this contract amendment is available from New York State and the trust restricted funds from the sale of transferable development rights.
Okay, are there questions or comments? What are the safety features for the playground?
One was that we realized that a portion of the slide was too sunny, and it's a metal slide, so we added a shade structure over that. We also had one area where there was sort of a lip and a different elevation for the surface, so we added a custom curved railing around that area so that someone wouldn't tip off.
Any other questions or comments? None, no hot slides. I will call for a motion to authorize the trust to amend the contract with Kelco Construction, Inc. for Pier 97 general construction.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstentions? None. The motion is approved. Thank you. That completes the board action items for today. I would now like to ask Ms. Porter to present the president's report.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking Kevin and the large selection committee team for the CMS Builder work. It was a lot of work, but we're pleased with the outcome, and hopefully you will all be so as well. Thank you. It's late July in Hudson River Park, which can only mean one thing. We are busy. From top to bottom and from east to west, Hudson River Park is pulsing with activity and people. On any given day, from morning to night, there's something fun and engaging happening somewhere in the park, usually in more than one place, and sometimes nearly every place at once. I'll begin with our two largest events, the Macy's July 4th Fireworks Extravaganza and Pride Sunday. As you know, we were surprised to learn late this spring that the decision had been made to relocate the Macy's July 4th fireworks to the Hudson River. Staff worked many days and hours with Macy's, the Mayor's Office of Citywide Events Coordination and Management, and NYPD to prepare for this crowd-pleasing but logistically challenging event. And I'm sure you've heard from friends and neighbors that it was a huge success. I wish to publicly thank Deputy Mayor Mirazoshi, Olivia Arno, where'd she go? There she is. Don Tolson and Tawana Cameron at CECM, and NYPD for supporting us from beginning to end, making certain that the logistical issues associated with hosting such a massive event on the park's narrow piers and esplanade were addressed, working with us to ensure Hudson River Park's many tenants could successfully conduct their operations that day, and coordinating with dozens of other government partners about everything from road closures to ticketing to supplemental water fountains. NYPD did a really wonderful job of successfully managing security issues for the crowds, and New York City Sanitation removed trash from public piers that were open after viewing for the event. And Macy's was also an excellent partner, keeping every promise negotiated, treating the park carefully, and restoring it promptly following the show. Within the trust, nearly every department had a hand in planning and executing the event too. And I'd like to give everyone a big shout out to them all for their work, regardless of their role. The trust's operations, horticulture, facilities, and program staff all worked on July 4th and put in extra hours leading up to and following it as well. So did the Doe Fund and FedCap employees. Ted Shank managed a large free ticket distribution operation for community members, and Andrew Ronan and Maggie Curtis and their team in public programs helped make sure they had a VIP experience. Robert Wynn, Alex Kritzer, and Rashi Puri coordinated with all of our tenants throughout. Robert Wynn was providing on-the-spot reports to us on July 4th in the early hours of the morning, in fact, long before there were any crowds. And Rob Rodriguez, Chris McGann, Robert Atterbury, and Andrew Ronan negotiated, smoothed, and managed about 1,000 details and logistics with both Macy's and New York City. Given everything else on their plates, it was not their full-time job, but it might as well have been, given the time it consumed throughout June, especially, and I'd like to thank them all. There were, with all of that said, there are a few hiccups, there are a few things that we would, well, I'm glad we got out of the subway. So, you're welcome. There were a few hiccups, there are a few things that certainly if Macy's comes back, let's see to improve on. But overall, it was a safe, positive experience for people and the city.
Congratulations.
The team did an incredible job.
Great.
And on the topic of an incredible job, just a few days earlier, as you know, the same people oversaw yet another successful, very crowded Pride weekend. This year, storms in the late afternoon on Pride Sunday forced us to evacuate the park near Christopher Street due to concerns about lightning. After the threat of storms had passed, we reopened the park and again attracted large crowds to the area, and they stayed on for the celebration as usual, well into the midnight hour. It's probably obvious, but with our small staff managing these back-to-back events and all of the barriers and portable toilets and trash removal and safety measures and negotiations is a lot. And I'm so proud to say that our team rose to the challenge again, caring for the park, our patrons, our tenants, and each other with grace and humor. They're an amazing team. We should be happy. That's what it looked like after the storm. It was pretty amazing. Of course, I'm equally proud of the breadth and quality of our own summer programming created and managed by our public programs and River Project teams. On the Friday of Pride Week, the Bad Judies and Randy Jones got the crowd dancing on Pier 45, in addition to YMCA, which of course had to be sung. Randy Jones actually talked about the piers as they were at the time that the video was filmed. And it was actually really fun to see him go back in memory lane. And I was glad my father had played the Rhinestone Cowboy for me growing up because I for the past 2 Mondays and with 2 more to come, our inaugural Broadway by the Boardwalk series at Clinton Cove has attracted about 2,000 adoring people each night to listen to Broadway headliners performing show tunes and their individual compositions. And I'd like to thank Friends for their support of this and other of our summer programs. This is a great addition to the park, and it feels like it's found its home in Clinton Cove. It's wonderful. Sunset Salsa and Dance's Life have attracted hundreds of people wearing dancing shoes each session to Pier 76, and Jazz at Pier 84 draws music fans and picnickers to Midtown each week. We're now up to nearly 500 people for many jazz performances. And while we were disappointed that Lululemon made the decision to focus on other markets for their promotions this year, the benefit is that we've broadened our range of fitness programs and partners. And I'd like to thank Director Michael Pastor for introducing us to Iron Strength, which took place on Pier 46 on Monday night, 305 Fitness, Tone House, Moto Yoga, Method by Oscar, and Bike Yoga. Who knew about bike yoga? You have to
We've got the real estate for it.
They're also partners. Earlier this month, we were proud to partner with the Whitney, Poster House, The Shed, and more to present West Side Fest, a celebration of many West Side cultural institutions for the second year of this fantastic neighborhood-wide event, and I'm expecting this to keep growing in years to come as well. Of course, Blues Barbecue is scheduled for Saturday, August 10th, and we hope we have good weather similar to the past few years so that everyone can enjoy the amazing bands, food, and drinks. This year, we're adding a dance area and blues dance lessons. I don't quite know what that means if it's not Zydeco, but we'll see. And a hot sauce market and an instrument petting zoo for kids. It's great to have the larger space at Pier 76 to keep building on this popular annual tradition in Hudson River Park. I hope you found time to open some of the links I sent about our second annual Crab Week, which took place last week. The River Project created Crab Week last year to promote the role of crabs in the Hudson River environment and as a way to draw people to the Wet Lab, our working aquarium at Pier 40. Together with colleagues at Hudson River Park Friends, they created a suite of activities, including crab personality quizzes, puns, and other original content, even an album featuring crab songs in the vein of various artists by using AI and our own educational content. This year, thanks to our Gansevoort Salt Marsh, we've been excited to spot more crabs than we have in the past, including Atlantic Marsh Fiddler crab. And last week, we spotted a horseshoe crab in one of the tide pools. It's been exciting to see the Wet Lab audience growing over the past 2 years as well, as we've added more weekend hours. In addition to it being featured on Taxi TV, recently, thanks to a great feature by Lauren Scala on New York Live, the official television station of Monaco also ran a story on it in French, so that now people in Monaco can discover the animals of the Hudson River as well. And our science leadership program is also in full swing with 12 high school and 3 college students working with our team to conduct hands-on field research about the impacts of marine plastics on seagull health. The River Project team is also in many other places throughout the park running big city fishing, nature walks, shoreline strolls, and serving thousands of children visiting with summer camps. Our tenants are also providing amazing summer events. Little Island's original amphitheater events have been mostly sold out this season. Kayakers and other non-motorized boaters are avidly using the 4 boathouses. The Intrepid Museum has extended free Friday evening hours, free movies on the flight deck, and this Friday, astronomy night. Restaurant concessions, fields, and courts are all in heavy use as well, and many youth sports leagues are also running summer camps at our fields too, and it's great to see kids everywhere, every day. I'll pause for a second in case anyone.
I mean, the crab stuff, as I told you, was fantastic, and I think the survey was spot on. I am a spider crab, which is known for adorning its shell and its nailed it, I know, right? But also, kudos to the team, because I think in my glancing of your social media, the engagement was very high on this. There was really positive responses to content that is not typical of the park. So I think it really shows there's an interest there for this in a creative way to educate. So really, bravo on this.
Yeah, I mean, Friends, this was a true partnership with Friends. It was actually Friends staff member Julie Goldberg who I think created the album. Just it's amazing.
And she wrote the song lyrics.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if you didn't listen to them, you know, the spider crab, actually, I think you were a decorator crab, weren't you? Were you?
No, I was I was like, that's ugly. But then I was okay with the fact that they're known for, like, you know, being
Well, the crab songs sort of match the crab personalities. So there was like a Green Day-ish one, and, you know, they matched personalities. It was great. On the topic of great, as you know, last week HRPT was invited to ring the closing bell at NASDAQ. of our Park Over Plastic program and Plastic Free July. I wish I had had more lead time so that more staff and more board members could have joined. Those of us who came, it was a blast. It just exceeded expectations, I think, for all of us, right? Deputy Mayor Zoshi was our official bell ringer and delivered perfectly timed unscripted remarks about why plastic pollution is an issue everyone should care about. Directors Michael Pastor and Pam Frederick also joined us, as did our high school and college science leadership program interns, our legal interns, and a number of staff members from across the trust. NASDAQ made this a memorable day for everyone who participated. It was a lot of fun.
A lot of hype.
Clap for a long time.
That's right.
I just wanted to know if the deputy mayor pressed the button to close.
Oh,
It's it, press here.
They're all going down as we're.
Yeah. Can we get a better crop on this picture, please?
Okay, turning to design and construction, I'm pleased to report that the water play area within the Pier 25 playground is now fully open now that the new safety surface and spray shower are in place. Completing this project took longer than expected due to some hiccups with the concrete pours, so we were extra glad to be able to reopen this area during the recent heat spell and to see the popular water features providing instant relief to our younger park patrons and occasionally their caretakers too. The restrooms at Gansborg Peninsula opened to the public on July 11th after the trust received the temporary certificate of occupancy from the buildings department. EJ Electric has also installed additional lighting on the sand bluff and south edge, which staff initiated to assist the park's operations department with monitoring the site for public safety. It's been a challenging year, I will say, for bathrooms in the park on an operating level. We've had a lot of vandalism, a lot of needle use and other kind of behavioral problems in all of the bathrooms. We historically have had it frequently at Pier 84. This morning, after the bathrooms were of course cleaned last night and early this morning checked, at roughly noon, there were many needles in the Pier 45 comfort station bathroom.
Do we have disposal bins in our bathrooms or no? Like needle disposal?
We have protocols, I know. I don't know if we have that. I think what we do is call our own team to dispose of them properly. But, obviously we don't really want. the
It
public
might be
to
something to
know.
consider, because typically for diabetes, right, or like something like that, but we're finding that there's other reasons to happen too, and like even educating folks who might be using like something to get through, and
That's a thought. I don't actually know the answer to whether we have them, and we can look at that.
We have them in some of our parks.
You do?
It's typically a partnership with an organization,
that picks them up or processes or something.
Yeah, so it's good to have that combination.
Right, that way you're not
Need
managing.
disposal and.
I'll follow up with
Yeah,
your
we
team
can-
on that. Thank you. At Pier 97, work continues on the remaining spaces that have not yet opened, including the Belvedere, Overlook, and the playground. All work should be complete later this summer. Nearby work on the new restroom park maintenance building is progressing well, with electric, plumbing, and HVAC completed and interior finishes, as well as the facade system continuing to be installed. Connection to the city water main was recently made, and Con Ed is installing the building gas service. Installation of the electrical service will occur soon after. You can see in that middle picture the extent of, when we talked about Kelco and obstructions underground and the complications of that site, that's partly why things were not where they were advertised to be in some cases in this step. HRPT is still working with state DOT on the required environmental and design review of the federally funded bikeway and esplanade improvements planned for the area between Pier 97 and Riverside Park South. With regard to design work, the trust and its design team led by Sage and Coombe with EHDD met with Community Board 1 on June 18th to share updates on the schematic design for the estuarium. Progress was well received, and the design team is now refining the concept, including to incorporate community feedback. At that point, the design team will also prepare a cost estimate for the specific design so that the trust will have a better sense of the amount of the funding gap that needs to be filled to complete this important core project. On July 11th, the trust and its design team led by Marvell attended a public meeting hosted by Community Board Boards, Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee to introduce the design team for the 29th to 45th Street landscape and Esplanade design, and to start discussing site opportunities and challenges. Unlike other park areas that have been constructed, this area includes numerous existing land uses. You can see kind of a tour from south to north as we go through these. The heliport, the forthcoming Gateway Tunnel construction project, the New York City Ferry Terminal at Pier 79, a privately owned pier at Pier 78, the park's tenant Circle Line, the MTA bus charging station, and the Trust-owned composting yard and operations area. Many of these uses have operating requirements that will need to be incorporated into the park design. With that said, our goal is certainly to introduce much needed green space within this 17-block area. Staff has promised to return to the community this fall to kick off the community design process for the northern portion of the zone. In the interim, the design team will continue to meet with various stakeholders. We've already had kickoff discussions with Circle Line regarding Pier 81 and 83 and New York City DOT regarding Pier 79. I'll pause for a second here. Turning now to real estate, several of the trust staff members had a tour of the recent improvements being made to the Chelsea Piers walkway located adjacent to the river, and were pleased with the progress being made there. Construction of the restaurant spaces at Pier 57 on the roof and the western end of the pier right here is also proceeding, and we continue to meet regularly with Amtrak and Gateway as they are planning for construction activities within Hudson River Park, with recent meetings also being held with Air Pegasus to discuss the temporary removal of the existing fuel tank and helipads located at the southern portion of the park. Construction of the Hudson Tunnel project in the park is expected to begin in early 2025. And you can now see the work that has commenced outside of our boundaries in the channel. The barge is there, and it's underway. The trust has received the preliminary draft environmental impact statement for the Northwest Battery Park Resiliency Project that was shared with the involved agencies on July 8th. The trust is reviewing that document and will provide comments. Once the full DEIS is released for public review, we expect we will have formal comments at that point too. We are awaiting updated 60% construction documents that propose dimensions for the overwater platform with proposed dimensions for the overwater platform that would extend into park property. The documents that we got reflect an earlier condition, so we're not yet able to review. The Battery Park City Authority has also agreed that HRPT should participate with their design team in determining design details for the areas where our two parks meet. Battery Park City Authority is also awaiting input from DEP that will affect a larger portion of Hudson River Park during construction, inclusive of the lawn panel south of the basketball courts and the adjacent section of the bikeway. We must still also figure out property jurisdiction issues. I'll let the directors know when the DEIS is released for public review, and we'll share our comment letter once it's completed with all of you. And last, you received the first quarter financials from Kim Quinones earlier today. Total operating revenues of $10.3 million and net operating expenses combined with net capital maintenance of $7.4 million are right on target with budget estimates. And that's my report, unless anyone has additional questions.
I don't have a question. I again want to commend you all on the July 4th thing. I mean, when I heard the news that that's awesome, it's going to be great, but I can only imagine that stacking that work on whatever else you did. So to you as a deputy mayor's team, and congratulations. Those are the kind of things where you only hear when it's bad. And I feel like I didn't hear anything for a number of days, and I said that's a very good sign. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I will say that all of you have our back on this as well. I had conversations with a number of you in the negotiations period leading up to it, and I appreciate that too. We all do. Thank you.
Is there any further business?
We have Tammy, the advisory council report.
Oh, yes. I apologize.
Okay, thanks so much for, thank you so much. We have seasonal changes for the advisory council as usual. We went through our election season, so I want to thank Isaac Daniel from Dusk for his years of service. He has now been voted off and is a regular member. Thank Dan Miller for his tireless leadership as the rep from CB2, Susan Kent, is now our primary representative since CD2. She is the chair and Dan is her backup. We're going to welcome Tom Fox now for the fall on the executive committee, and I congratulate Wendy Pastor and thank her for her consistent volunteerism on our executive committee on behalf of Assemblymember Simone's office. I also want to welcome and thank you very much for approving LifeSci and New York Cruise Lines. They'll be a great addition. We still have 2 openings, that means, for the advisory council. So I encourage the trust, if you meet any great organizations, please suggest that they apply, and all the information is on the website, which we'll be updating shortly. We did have the BPCA present as well to the advisory council. There are some concerns which we've reviewed with the trust staff in terms of what the advisory council is concerned with connections for the project. It goes from Northmore straight down the West Side Highway on the east side, for those who don't know, crosses at just north of Chambers Street at the bottom of the Hudson River Park Trust land area and goes all the way across the bottom. So from the bottom of basically the basketball fields all the way across Chambers Street, top of Esplanade to the water. And the advisory council chose not to do a letter with concerns, but instead to have them discussed, and we will see, pursuant to what comes out with the draft EIS. We were delighted more than anything that they were actually really involved and working with the staff at the trust, and that it was an easement, not a change in the legislation that was needed or anything else. And look forward to seeing the changes they'll make, how that affects the trust, and who's going to, ideally, we think, Battery Park City Authority should be paying to maintain any of the changes that they make on the property from the trust. And with that, I close my report. We are off July and August, so I've been in the park enjoying it. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, is there any further questions? If not, I request that the directors move into executive session to discuss litigation and real estate matters, and that we adjourn the public portion of the meeting. The executive session will not include any action items for approval by the directors. May I please have a motion to move into executive session and adjourn the public portion of today's.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, none. With that, the public meeting, the motion is approved in the public meeting. Yeah.